dear ones. You're listening to the What God Is Not podcast with Father Michael O'Loughlin and Mother Natalia.
Christ is risen. I don't really know how we start these intros. I just realized. Listeners, thank you for listening. Welcome.
I think you were going to go, hey, friends.
And hey, friends. Thanks for listening. We're just going to keep all this. Anyways, today is Father Michael's episode, and he did the reverse of what I did a couple weeks ago, and he interviewed my parents. So you get to meet Barbara and Dave, who are just really beautiful people. I learned a lot listening to them and their reflections on my discernment, and I hope you will as well. So we talk about, kind of like we did with Father Michael's parents, the joys, the struggles of having a son or daughter who's celibate. We also find out why my dad most appreciates the fact that I'm a nun, and it's not what you're expecting because it has to do with football. And I don't know, what else? You'll get to hear our Chinese food being delivered for dinner. So there we go. Banter haters, feel free to skip ahead either 9 minutes or 9:11 or 9:24. We've heard it all the different ways.
Christ is risen.
Indeed, he is risen. Great timing, Dad.
Yeah. I just realized I probably told you guys the wrong greeting, didn't I? Because Barbara, didn't you ask about, I would say glory to Jesus Christ, or did you say?
No,
I said Christ is risen.
Yeah.
Never mind. Fine. Goodness.
I did.
You did
Okay.
great. Good job, Father Michael.
So I like your stairway behind you.
It's a stairway to heaven.
I was going to make the same joke.
Am I?
What? I was going to make the same joke, I said.
Oh, about the stairway to heaven?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like that my mom just made.
You know what? So my family fills out a Trello request every year.
I don't know what that means.
I don't either.
Trello's so do you know Carolina Sheridan, Maddie, and Mother, right?
Uh-huh.
So she's helping me get my life together because she's many have tried.
Thank you, Carolina. God bless you.
But she shared with me this organizational software called Trello, and actually I should have known because my sister-in-law Seska uses it, and she's a very organized person as well. Anyway, so we have this thing. Anyway, to go all the way back, we have this thing called Trello, and my family of like 500 or however many of us there are, we all share our gift requests on Trello. So we update it so that people know what we want for Christmas and our birthdays and things like that. And all the 18 nieces and nephews, they put that on so we can buy each other presents. And I decided that my next two big favorite purchases are a cigar lighter that has a cutter and three different kinds of cutters on the lighter. So you can either use the scissors to cut the end off, or they have to the punch, like a big punch and a small punch, and it's a lighter and it's a cigar lighter, and it's amazing. But the second thing relating to Stairway to Heaven, this is where I'm going with this. Second thing is a record player, because I'm old. And so I am asking for a portable record player that I can actually play vinyl records on. And I was racking my brain to find records that I would want, because I don't own any vinyl at all. Racking my brain to say, what records would I want? My top of my list was Dave Matthews Band live at Red Rocks. And it's like going for like $195. So
Was the whole point of this because you're trying to get less listeners to send you these things?
That goal happened about 10 seconds ago, but I changed the meaning behind this. But yes, like $200 for Dave Matthews Band Red Rocks. So if any of you are independently wealthy and want to send me a record of a vinyl of Dave Matthews Band live at Red Rocks, 1997, I think it was. I was 17, 18. All right, we're gonna edit that out. So how are you guys?
No, they won't.
I like the stairwell behind you.
Thank you. We actually refinished those stairs ourselves. We took the carpet off and did them ourselves.
I can't see what they are. Is it wood?
Yeah.
That's
Nice. That's nice.
Thanks.
It looks very East Coast.
Are you trying to point out that we're on the East Coast? Because we are.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, Mother, how are you doing? And where are you?
I'm doing well. I'm in Schenectady, New York. How do you say that, Maddie?
Not even going to try.
How do you spell it, Father Michael?
SKIN.
So I'm in Schenectady, New York. I'm on my home visit, visiting my parents. I brought Maddie on my home visit with me, and because she's off of school right now. And we're drinking. Maddie brought us a very special treats. So my dad and I both really like Belgian triples. So she Googled like the best Belgian triples in the world. And I'm supposedly drinking number 1 right now.
Supposedly.
Yeah, I got number 5.
I don't know how you say it, but it is delicious.
It was quite
and she got this wine for my mom that's really good. This red wine, Behringer Brothers, I think. So, anyways, that's what we're doing. Maddie, what are you drinking?
IPA,
Headhunter.
Californian.
One of the fat heads. Yeah.
Is it pronounced triple or tripel?
Triple.
I've heard it both ways.
You know, that's right.
Dudes rock. Thank you, Dad.
Yeah. I don't know how you say that one.
Chimay.
Maybe.
Oh.
I've had that one before.
If anybody is in Las Vegas, Nevada, and wants blue Chimay out of the tap, you go to the Monte Cristo Cigar Bar in Caesars. That's like my favorite place to go and smoke a cigar and drink a Chimay.
One of the triples that I like a lot is called Fin du Monde, which means end of the world. And so one time when I was drinking it, I thought this was very clever. Pretty much nobody laughed.
I'll laugh.
Maybe Father Patrick laughed, but I said, "It's la fin du monde as we know it." And was that a pity laugh, Father Michael?
No, see this.
It's fine. A pity laugh is still a laugh. That's my
all these 90s and 80s bands that I could get vinyl records of when I decide to.
Okay,
that's my new hobby. So if you're into Billy Bobby,
So I'm here with at the request of, to go back to your answer of where I am, at the request of a few of our listeners. I think they wanted us to have our parents on. So last week's episode we recorded with your parents. Did we have one in between?
A couple weeks ago. Yes, we did.
Okay.
We talked about the catechism instruction.
Yeah. So a couple weeks ago, we had your parents on, and this week we have on my parents. So Barbara and Dave in Schenectady now. And yeah, so welcome on, guys.
Thank you.
It's
Thanks
good to
for
see
having
you
us.
guys. Good to hear you.
My dad is like the world's biggest introvert, and he's dying inside right now.
We should have an introvert off between my dad and your dad.
That would be something.
Some sort of a competition.
He would sit here and not say a word the whole time.
You know?
He would win.
We should just tell our dads that two of them are starting a podcast, and it's just them. It'll just be like, do you just need silence in your life? Listen to this podcast.
Like that one time I watched that movie about the
Integrate silence.
Yeah, Integrate Silence with the monastery, and I'm like, what's going on with this movie? Like the first 13 minutes, I didn't say a word.
Yep.
It's actually very good though, but yeah.
I went there with a parishioner back in Denver when it first came out, and she fell asleep within 10 minutes and slept through the entire thing. And I became infatuated. I loved that movie.
Yeah.
I sat there and I was like, I want to join. I want everything about it. I want to only talk when I'm skiing. I want to cut up apples and cheese with a knife and have that for the meal every single day. I want to have a cross in my room and a little kneeler.
Yeah,
that's what I got out of the movie.
And look where you're at now.
Really made me want to run off and join a monastery, but then I realized I'm already married, and I guess I'll have to live vicariously through Mother Natalia.
That would be a really funny joke, actually, to have a Mother Natalia's dad and Father Michael's dad podcast, and it's just silence every week, an hour of silence that we just put out.
Silence of the dads.
see if people actually subscribe.
one of the funnier emails that we've gotten a lot of funny emails, and I appreciate you people, and because they just brighten my day. But one time someone emailed and they said, it's just hearing you talk about the monastery really, it kind of makes me want to be a nun as well. And your monastery sounds so amazing, and I would really like to discern there, but I am a married man. And it was so funny. It was so funny. I lost it.
Those are two check marks against both of those things.
Yeah. There was also good and serious and beautiful stuff in the email, but yeah.
But funny always helps. That's Mother Natalia doesn't remember a thing about the serious stuff, but she definitely remembers the joke in the beginning. Actually, you probably remember everything. I don't. Got you. Normally, it's me that forgets everything.
Well, only because this particular listener, we've had multiple email exchanges, so I could. Yeah, there's been lots of stuff. I don't remember that particular email what the stuff was, but anyways.
Well, I wrote down some questions because Mother Natalia wrote down some questions for her, for my parents. So, let me write this down. 9/11. That's easy to remember.
I wrote it down. It's my intro this time.
What?
It's my intro.
Oh, that's right. It's 9/11. 9 minutes, 11 seconds.
Wait, how long was the banter? 9:24.
All right. So anyway, I thought that the podcast when Mother Natalia's interview of my parents went amazingly well, and I really liked it, and I think our listeners are going to like it as well. It doesn't come out for a couple more weeks. Maybe one more week next week. I think it comes out next week.
Next week.
Anyway, according to when we are recording this. By the way, we're recording this on Mid-Pentecost, or the day before Mid-Pentecost. No, Mid-Pentecost. Yeah, we're recording this on Mid-Pentecost. So happy Mid-Pentecost. Yes. So, Barbara and Dave, I have some questions for you. And basically, we've realized on this podcast that a lot of people are very interested in our stories, which is good and beautiful. And also that they are just blown away by the fact that Mother Natalia is actually a nun. And so, because she seems so down to earth and normal, and especially a nun that is primarily contemplative, I would say. We have a lot of Roman Catholic listeners that would make that distinction between contemplative and active, and our monasteries generally are both. They have their own charisms. But so my first question for both of you is, when Mother Natalia was 15 or around then, what did you expect she was going to do with her life?
Do you want to go first?
I can go first if you want. I kind of expected that she was going to be a nun. No, I wanted her to be a nun because, frankly, there would be no man that would be that I would find acceptable. So
good
Jesus
dad
kind
answer.
of fits the bill there. But no, I thought that she would do something. She was very. I would say she was very much into math and science, and I thought she would do something like in the science field or in the medical field or maybe something with mathematics and rocket science, something. She was doing algebra when she was quite young, like I don't know, 2 or 3 years old. So I thought she would be doing something like that.
Algebra is one with letters, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually thought, because she talked about it a lot growing up, I thought she was going to be a doctor in the military. Because that was her goal at that time, was she was like, I want to be a doctor and I want to join the military like my dad. So for years, that's what I thought. No, she was smart enough, so I knew she'd be accepted anywhere. So that's what I thought.
Speaking of being in the military like my dad, it's totally cool if you don't want to. I just want to make sure that you did this on purpose. Do you want to give any intro to my parents like we did for years, or you want to just...
Oh, no, let's do that. Sorry, I jumped right into my questions.
That's okay.
Yeah, I would love, how do we do it? Wait, let's do it for each other. That's what we did, right?
Mm-hmm. We had them introduce each other.
So actually, let's start that way. Dave, could you please introduce your wife?
Just
a little bit of background.
Yeah,
a little bit of background, who she is, where she comes from, what you love about her.
Yeah, she is, my wife Barbara is, I don't know, she's kind of from all over because she's a military brat, so she grew up in a military family. Technically, her birth certificate says Valparaiso, Indiana, but I doubt she remembers any of that. But she's kind of been around a lot, in Texas, predominantly in Texas, I would say, growing up in El Paso area and Connecticut, Groton, Connecticut, where her dad was a submariner, so she was had a dad that was in the Navy as well, and that's actually where we met. And she is a beautiful woman with a big heart. And I would just say there's nobody I know that has such a big heart and wants to do so much to help other people. So that's what I love about her. That's one of the things I really love about her.
Oh, I'll cry. And we've been married for how long?
Oh, I
That's
don't
a
know.
trap.
31 years.
Approximately.
Give or take.
Who remembers anymore?
A long time.
Thank you, honey. This is my husband, David Olson. I would like to say he grew up in a lot of areas, but he didn't. He is from Schenectady. He grew up in Schenectady, and he did not leave Schenectady until he joined the military, which was at 18. So he kind of didn't even know anything of the world or anything out there until he joined the military. When I met him, we met in Groton, and he had been in for about 2 years.
Maybe less. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe not even 2 years. And it's funny because I really didn't know he was in the military at first. And I always said I was never going to marry a military man because I was never going to put any kids through what I went through. But then I met him, and he was just he makes me laugh. He always makes me laugh. Even though I don't get his jokes a lot, he just makes me laugh. He really does. And he's a very strong man, and I've always felt safe with him. As far as safe, not like safe, comfortable safe, but knowing that I'm safe from the world. And when I met him, I was not involved in my faith as I had gone away, but he was. I mean, every Sunday, even when we were dating, every Sunday he was at church, whether I went or not. And I just realized that was the kind of environment I wanted to raise my family in. And to this day, he still makes me laugh. And he's still very strong, and he's just a wonderful person.
Amen. Well, thank you both for that. Appreciate it. And thanks for the reminder, Mother, about that as well. All right. Have you learned something about your daughter during her discernment and now life as a nun that you did not expect, that you didn't know beforehand?
Yes, I think I'll go first because it has to do with her father. I honestly believe the hardest thing that I never thought she'd be able to do it was stepping away from her dad. She's always been daddy's girl, always. I mean, to this day, she still calls him daddy, and I believe she always will. So especially like in that time that I think was the first year you couldn't talk to people. You had to
more so the year after my tonsure.
Yeah, whatever that, there was a year, and I was like,
there's some limited communication the first year.
Limited communication. And I was just like, I don't know how her or her father are going to do it. I mean, I really don't. And she is everybody loves her. Everybody loves her. And I was just like, how is she going to leave all this? I mean, just her friends, her community, and go into this monastic life. And I have learned because of that what a strong, faithful, beautiful woman she is.
Yeah, I think the thing that I noticed mostly is just watching her. What's been really impressive to me is just watching her grow in wisdom. I mean, she's so. She can just talk to anybody and give anybody advice. And it's remarkable to see. And, it's really heartwarming to see how she's able to interact with and connect with so many different people. And I mean, clearly she doesn't get that from me. But I mean, it's been really, it's somebody that, you have a child and they're growing up and they're always asking you advice, and it's kind of like a switch where you start to think of them as somebody you would ask for advice. And seeing that was just was really impressive to me.
Amen. Well, let me springboard off of that. Have you learned something about yourselves from watching a daughter you raised and have now watched her go off on her own and now moved into a very specific way of deciding to live her life?
It's okay if I go first again?
Yeah.
Okay. Just because I know. Yes, one of the main things that I have learned that she has taught me because of this is my children really aren't my children. They're God's. And it's taken me all this time to realize that God gave me the blessing and the graces to raise his children on earth and to trust me with that. And I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned is I may have given birth to her and she may have my genes, but we all go back all the way to Adam and Eve as far as, genes and all that. So we're all in the same pool. And, but I've learned that she's really not mine. She is my earthly child. And I was supposed to try to raise her the way God wanted and for her to understand what is on the world and what is not on the world. And that she belongs to God.
That's really beautiful.
What was the question again? I have ADD. So.
Hey, welcome to the party. Since that's why I wrote these things down. Have you learned something about yourself, Dad?
Yeah. So one thing I learned is just the relationships that we have been able to build because of her. Like, I mean, I remember the first time we went to the monastery when she was entering the monastery and how welcome we felt there. And they've really become a part of our family. And we really feel like we're part of, like the nuns themselves and the parents of the nuns. And like every time we go to the monastery several times a year and like their friends become our friends. And it's just something I never thought that I would have, just being, because, we kind of keep to ourselves and we, so like even like Maddie is here on a home visit with her and everything. It's just, it's really nice and special to be able to have that, to have relationships. I know you've talked about that before on your podcast, but to have those kinds of relationships with other people, that's been something that's really, I felt like has changed with me.
Can I say one thing that just hit me?
Please.
When they enter, the first year they're called Dokimos. Her nickname from her father since she was, I don't know how old, has been Mouse. You are my mouse. So when she entered, he would not call her Dokimos. He would say, you're Doki Mouse.
It was pretty cute.
Dorky mouse.
Father Travis and Father Michael called me Dorky Mouse, and Dad called me Doki Mouse.
So put the two together and
Dorky Mouse.
Dorky mouse. And actually, Barbara, can I go back to you for a second and ask you, was that a hard realizing that she wasn't yours?
Oh gosh, yes. It hit me hard when she told me she was going to enter, not because I didn't want her to. I mean, I felt very honored and blessed and very proud of her when she, told us she was going to enter. But I mean, she'll tell you, I cried and cried for so long and for so many times. And I kept thinking, I'm losing my daughter. She's not even going to be Victoria anymore. She's not going to go by that. People aren't even going to know that's her. And I was like, she comes to me for stuff and it's not going to be that way anymore. So I struggled. And I'm going to tell you the changing point of that struggle, like he said, was when we went to the monastery. Because when I met Mother Theodora, I was like, this is unbelievable. She is the most beautiful woman in the world. This is the best person my daughters could go into, the hands that she could go into. And then, when I started talking to other people and Mother Gabriella's mom and Mother Cecilia's mom, and I realized, wait a minute, her name is legally still Victoria Olsen. When we book flights for her, you can't put Mother Natalia, you have to put Victoria Olsen. So she's never going to lose that foundation. And when women get married, they change their names. I was like, so that's what helped realize it, was Mother Theodora and realizing she's still there. It's just different, in a more beautiful spiritual way. And, but she'll tell you, I still struggle. To this day, sometimes I still struggle. And I, still cry, but it's beautiful. And I completely understand it now.
Well, thank you for your vulnerability. I appreciate that. That was beautiful. Finally, in that same vein, have you guys learned something about God from watching your daughter follow this vocation?
You go first this time, babe.
I mean, I've learned. I mean, I think I've known this, but I've learned that, like, God will never be outdone in his generosity. And, maybe I've given up my daughter. Not really. I mean, she's still my daughter. But God has brought so many people and relationships into our life through this. And there's a special community among, I think, parents of priests and religious that you kind of form a community. And when you meet somebody else who's the parent of a priest or a religious, there's kind of a connection or a bond that you have with them. And it's just, you become another part of a special kind of community in a way. And just the aspect of the community has been something that's really stood out for me.
I think one of the things I learned was that there is a man out there that's worthy of her. Like he said, God, Jesus was the only man that, would really take care of her and take care of her completely and always needed. I think I've also learned through her and through the monastery is we have always, we've always been Catholic. I'm the cradle Catholic, so is he. But I think, like she has said in previous podcasts, we'd go to church every Sunday, we'd do the churchly things, but I don't think we really understood what it was. So I think they have taught me that it is truly the body and blood of Christ that we receive. That is him in us, and that he is to be the top of our life, not the other way around, that we should start our day with God and end our day with God. And I've also learned that if you do that, you can handle even the hard things. I mean, it's really the days that we do matins in the morning, because we try to do them before my husband goes to work, a shorter version, not the long ones they do. I guess you would say like a Roman's matins. But
It's not, though. It is the Byzantine.
Right. It is the Byzantine. That when we do that, it doesn't matter if I go out and got hit, if my car got hit. I can handle it better than if I had not done it and my car got hit. And I notice that. And so does my husband. And a lot of times I'll call him and be like, oh, we didn't pray matins today. You know how I know? Because I'm having a rotten day. So that is what they've taught me.
Thank you for that distinction. That is really beautiful. And I think something that every Christian needs to hear is that we don't, again, God can do miracles because we're prayerful, but there's just something so beautiful and even more important than preventing a tragedy is empowering us to handle it well. So what morning prayer can do every day is to say, it may not prevent bad things from happening to us. That comes from the devil. That comes from other aspects of our humanity or other people's humanity. But what it can do is prepare us to handle that exact situation in a different, a better, a more virtuous way.
Right. And because of them, I do the Jesus prayer now constantly in my head all the time before I go to bed. And I've also realized now, even because of this, when I go to bed at night, I thank God. No matter what's happened through the day, I thank him for the day. I ask him to watch over me for the night and give me another beautiful day the next.
Beautiful. Thank you. Mother Natalia, have you learned something about your parents?
Oh. I have.
She can't answer that.
One of the stories that I've shared with people is my relationship with my parents. We talk less frequently than we did before, but there's a depth to our relationship that we never had before I entered the monastery. So I realized at one point, I was telling someone this just recently. I don't know that we've ever actually talked about it, but I realized at some point, I was like, when I write letters to my friends at the monastery, or when I go for a hike with someone at the monastery or something, like, I'm sharing the fruits of my prayer. I'm sharing things that are going on in my spiritual life. And like, why don't I share those same things with my parents? And I realized it was because like that just wasn't normal conversation really before I entered the monastery. And so it's like my relationship with my parents kind of continued on as it was before I entered the monastery. Whereas these relationships that I was starting while in the monastery, that just kind of naturally happened. Like I talked about what's going on in my prayer, whatever. And so when I realized this, like I don't talk to my parents in the same way as I talk to the other people that I write letters to at the monastery. Like the letters that I write to my mom are not the same. They're more like newsy, like what's going on in life, as opposed to like, this is what I'm praying about. And then I was like, but they probably don't even want to talk about those things. And then I thought, well, that's just not fair. And so the next time I FaceTimed with them or something, like the next Sunday, I just started sharing some of the stuff that I was praying about. And they were so receptive to it and just like wanted to talk about those things. And I was like, okay. And so now we're in conversations, we're frequently talking about like what's going on in our hearts, not just like what happened today, but what's going on in our hearts, and talking about like, these are the struggles I'm having, or this is what I read in scripture recently, or this is what the priest said in his homily. And just that, like I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but we're in a book club together. Like my mom, my dad, Mother Gabriella, and myself are in a book club. And we mostly at this point read just things of Eastern spirituality. Right now we're reading Face of God by Archbishop Raya, which is amazing. My mom particularly loves that book. But so I guess I learned like a depth of relationship was possible that I didn't realize. Like it's not like I felt like something was lacking before. But I just, does that make any sense? Have you guys had the same experience?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I had struggled with.
That we had a new depth of relationship?
No, that you would be different and share with the people she's talking about.
Maria and I cried in Father Michael's podcast too, don't worry.
That's one of the struggles. I was like, wow, she's talking to these people about this stuff and I knew nothing about it. Or sometimes when I listen to podcasts, I'm like, wow, we didn't know that happened in our life. Or, and I'm like, that's the times I struggle.
When the deeper things are shared with you and others, or maybe in ways you felt left out of the deeper conversations. Yeah. Well, that's, I think, one advantage of probably Mother Natalia is welcoming you into the book club, because it's kind of one of those beautiful things where she's saying, here's where I'm learning and here's what I'm learning. I'm learning along with you, and we're learning together in this.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mother Natalia, springboarding off of that.
Gosh, I didn't know I was going to be questioning this. I wasn't prepared.
You're not talking enough, so I'm going to make you talk.
I can share one thing actually that I was thinking earlier. I don't think either of them would mind me sharing these points, but I just, as they were introducing each other, I wanted to actually comment on both of the introductions of, like, I can think of many things that have been very foundational for me in being raised by each of them, but I wanted to share just one from each. Like when my dad talks about what a big heart my mom has, she's just always, my whole life, like, if someone needs something, if someone's in trouble, if someone, like, she will drop everything to help them, right? And this is, as we say at the monastery, this might be a phrase outside the monastery as well, I don't know, but I heard it first at the monastery, her cross and her crown, right? Of like, she's not about the tough love. And so like, there have been times that, some of us maybe like needed her to not drop everything and help us. It's like, we needed to learn it ourselves. But yeah, she just like, she has such a big heart, and I've just seen that my entire life and been the recipient of that my entire life. And when I was older is when I started to really like learn from that. And the aspect of what I was thinking as my mom was introducing my dad, and Mom, if you're bothered by this afterwards, we can edit it out. You can just tell me. No. When my dad met my mom, how old were you? 19 or 20? 20.
Mm-hmm.
He's 20 years old. She already had 3 kids at this point. And
I'm 6 years older.
and which that's a whole other story, but she didn't know that she was 6 years older than him, or she would not have agreed to meet him.
I did not until I was already in love with him.
So,
but he never lied.
Good. That's true. He never lied. His the was it the state ID or the military ID?
Driver's license.
His driver's license.
They put the wrong birthday.
They misprinted his driver's license and printed him as older than. So she was like, you can't possibly be 21, and he just shows her his driver's license.
It said he was 23.
It said he was 23.
So I was 26. So I was like, 3 years.
Classified as a sin of omission.
So anyways, but so this 20-year-old kid meets and falls in love with a woman who already has 3 kids. And like, so he's been the witness to me of just commitment. Like there were so many times in the military that he was just miserable. Yes. And he stayed in the military simply because it was good insurance and it was like what he needed to provide for his family. And so he stayed in until retirement for so many years of hating it.
And I was going to actually say that in the introduction, but then I didn't know if you wanted me to say it. So that's why I was like, no, you better not. So I'm glad she did bring that up.
And I remember asking, because I knew that for my dad, divorce was never an option, even like when there was struggles in marriage. And I was just like,
sorry, that's our dinner.
Sorry. Yeah, Maddie's jumping up to get it. Thanks.
Uber
to
Cards on the table. Check the couch there.
Is he feeding the cat?
In case you need it.
He's feeding the cat on the porch, I think. Anyways,
Is he feeding the cat?
I don't know. Maybe just petting it. Anyways, so and I asked him, like, why was divorce never an option? Because my mom's right that he was going to church every Sunday, but like they weren't necessarily devout, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
we
mom,
we fancied ourselves as devout. Kind of like Joe Biden's devout.
Yeah, we weren't that bad. We were one of those cradle Catholics who thought this is what Catholics do.
Yeah. So like, it's very, anyways, I won't go into that. Anyways, but but like for him throughout the last 31 years, like divorce was never even an option for him. And I asked him at one point, like, why was that? Because even when you weren't really practicing your faith, it wasn't. And he was just like, I just have always believed that marriage is forever and that this is a sacrament and that it's never. And so his commitment and her generosity of love have both been very inspirational for me.
And he's an introvert and I'm an extrovert. So that's kind of helped it go.
Someone said one time, and this was an introvert, shout out to a Willie Peacock, but he said one time, he said, all my friends are extroverts. He says, I feel like introverts have a hard time making friends. They're just kind of chosen by an extrovert. An extrovert goes, you are going to be my friend.
Is that the Willie?
And that's just...
I chose Maddie. That's what she's patting my shoulder right now.
Yeah.
I believe
go ahead, please.
I was going to say, I believe that there's only like so many words that you should have in a day, and so I allocate mine to my wife. Like at work, I'm known as like, my catchphrase is, tell me what you need in 5 words or less.
Nice. That's brilliant.
So I think you were about to ask me a question, but I wanted to share that
for somebody.
I was, but I actually think you kind of answered it in that. So thank you.
Oh,
thank you.
Great. I'm a prophet.
So one and
False.
the singing prophet. I was trying to get her to spit her. I was trying to get her to spit her beer out while she was drinking.
I did that on a first date one time. It wasn't a beer, but I was at like
First and last?
It wasn't the last. That was the shocking thing. I was at Lone Star Steakhouse or something like that, and I was drinking soda. I wasn't 21 yet, and I was drinking soda, and this guy made me laugh, and I just spit my soda out all over the table. Like it didn't come out my nose, but I just spit it out. This has always been a struggle for me of like. I spit my liquids out when anyways.
Well, if he made you laugh, then that's an honor. So I imagine he's like, man, this girl laughs my jokes. I'm going to ask for a second take.
Yeah. She soaks my bread in soda.
Totally worth it. So this is not a question. It's just a statement. But I do know that a lot of, and I'll get to some questions regarding this in a moment, but I know that a lot of young people may give this podcast and mine to their their parents to listen to say, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why we want to do this and how beautiful it is to say, you're hearing from parents their own stories about their child pursuing and receiving from God, more importantly, a celibate vocation. But I'm even looking at Maddie behind you guys and saying, like, we all have very competent parents. I'm talking about Maddie, like, having competent parents, right? We all have very competent parents, and because I've met Maddie's parents. So, but there's something about my parents and your parents' mother and Maddie's parents. I almost want to say, I'm not going to ask you to do this, but like, can you please describe in what way you're a total mess? Because I wanted to ask my parents that too, because I think that it's important for anybody listening. Like, Mother and I share quite often how we're a total mess, and I think that's very important in our vulnerability to show how the devil can make us feel so hard on ourselves. And I just did it last night. I was sitting at the bar where I normally go, and the manager for my old favorite restaurant is now at my new favorite restaurant, and it's actually really cool that he moved over as well. But he was talking about his son going to school, and I just kind of went into my normal monologue about what a mess I was in school. I failed out of my first year, and then I almost failed out of my second year, failed out of my third and fourth years, got kicked out of high school for behavior issues, like all these things that happened to me through my education, just because I'm not a scholar, not an academic. And then he just looked at me and he just said, he patted me on the back. He's like, "Well, you did well, Father." Like, and I was like, now you're fine. And it was such a beautiful, like, he's not religious. It was just, he wanted to state, like, you can say that only because you're doing well. Right. If I was a homeless guy in the street, I wouldn't be bragging about that, but I do think so thank you for your own vulnerability as well. I do not want you to answer that question, of course. Okay.
Wouldn't bother me.
Feel free, Mom.
You can incorporate that into future questions if you want, or if you really want to say something, go ahead and say something.
I would. Yeah, I would, because actually it's because first of all, we're all human and we're all only people, but I mean, this might help with some of the, for the other women, because me personally, one of the things that I am a mess at is being a mother, because I have 4 kids, but they're not all like Mother Natalia. They have problems. I have a son who doesn't really even talk to us. I have a daughter who is a single mom, recovering drug alcoholic, but she's doing wonderful. But I'm like, how can that be possible? They're all my kids. And I'm like, what did I do wrong? Where am I going wrong? And even as they're grown up and have their own families, I'm like, why am I not, I step in too much too. Like she said, I don't let them fall, and I've got to learn to let them fall. It's just like, as a mother, I'm like a mess, because I'm like, this just, they should all be under my wings and I should be able to take care of them and they should be great. So, that's a big struggle. And, and I'm a mess as far as my faith. Sometimes I sit there and I'm like, wow, if I could have a quarter of the faith that Mother Natalia has, I would be like way up there, And
I say the same thing.
But even you, Father Michael. Yeah, I mean, you.
Even you.
Oh, you are up there. You are up there.
If I could even get to his level.
Because this is probably like one of your guys' squirrels. When you were describing her and saying how, and then she became a nun, and everybody loves Mother Natalia because she's so normal. Some of the things you have discussed with us, just at dinners and stuff, about your life and stuff, I've told Mother Natalia, I'm like, wow. He's a person. He's a man. He's like, the way he just tells you how it is. It's wonderful. He had struggles. He grew up not, and so I look at you and I'm like, that is a priest, a wonderful, wonderful person. And I'm your favorite fan, by the way, on the podcast.
Thank you, Barbara.
And I defend you a lot against her. I'm like, he didn't deserve that.
It happens
so
often.
And then I struggle with being a wife, because my poor husband. I mean, he works 8 hours a day, and then he comes home, and I have some health issues. So, I do have problems at home sometimes, and he'll come home and like, well, I'll help you with this. I'll help you with that. And I'm like, but you just worked 8 hours. He's like, but I don't want you lifting that. I don't want you walking up the stairs. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Why is this happening to me? This is not what a wife should be. This is not how our life should be. And so I just have to learn to turn to God. But yeah, I struggle with a lot of things, and I am a huge mess. And all I can do is pray and hope that by the time it's my time, I'm in the grace of God.
Amen.
And one of the things Mother Natalia, or that learning about God did teach me, is right now in my life, this first time in probably the last couple of years, I'm okay with death. I'm okay. If I died tomorrow, so long as I was in the grace of God, I'm okay with that. If he wants me to live another 10 years, then that's what he wants. I'm okay with that. So I am actually comfortable with death. I'm okay when and where I die, just so long as I'm in the grace of God.
There's an immense freedom to that. St. Paul says that, whether I live or whether I die, it'll be for the glory of God. Simeon says that, now let your servant depart in peace. My eyes have seen the salvation. That really is a true witness to the fact that Christ has trampled death. And he's made it powerless. He's trampled it by his resurrection. And those of us, I think, that are able to say what you just said, Barbara, are truly the apostles and the witnesses, the martyrs. That's what witness means. The martyrs, the witnesses to the resurrection. And we then, by our lives, it's a homily. We preach the homily of the resurrection of Christ by our lives. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Can I ask them a question based on what you just said?
Yes, absolutely.
You're talking about how our lives are a homily, and we've talked before on the podcast many times about the fact that in the prayer of blessing the habit at our tonsure, the bishop says that the habit is a homily, a sermon to the people that says that that I'm paraphrasing, so I don't remember the exact prayer, but it's like, life is short, death is certain. Exactly what you're saying, Mom. And so I'm curious. I've never actually just asked this straight out, and so I'm just wondering what it's like to you that we that I always wear my habit when I'm at home. Like even on home visit right now, even if Maddie weren't here, like when I'm with my parents, I'm wearing my habit, and I'm wondering what that's like for you guys as well.
He's crying.
He's not crying.
I think it's for me it's just I think it's a very beautiful thing, and it's a witness for me. I think the habit shows me that to me it's also a reminder of all those things that you said, but it's also, to me it's something that you're set apart. There's something special about your vocation, and that's not something that you turn on and off. It's something you live every day and all day, no matter what the situation is. And so, that's what it means to me. So I think it's beautiful that you wear it all the time.
I'm probably going to have to go for confession for this because
oh, great.
It's prideful. No, I am very proud.
Oh, okay.
I'm very proud, very honored, very blessed to be out with her. And that's why I said the reason I feel like I might have to go into confession is because when we're out walking, I'm like, look, I am so proud. This is my daughter. She is a nun. She's a follower of God. She's praying for our souls. And so it's probably a little bit of a selfish, aspect of it, because I wouldn't want it any other way. I wouldn't. I love it when, and it's funny because we've gone out before and we see other nuns and I'm like, are you going to say hi to those sisters? Are you going to say hi, sister? And she's like, Mom. So I think I wouldn't even, kind of like Matthew, once again, her nephew said, at her life profession, when she came walking down the middle in her white gown, no glasses, her hair down, he was like, where's Mother Natalia? And we're like, that's her. He goes, no, that's not Mother Natalia. And he's like, and we were like, yes, it is. He's like, no. And as soon as she got her new habit on and she turned around, he's like, oh, there's Mother Natalia.
Like he sees me the whole time. He sees that this person gets up, gets the habit back on. And like,
so, and for me, it's the same thing now. I don't think I would recognize her as, if she wasn't in her habit. I would probably be like, if she ever came out of her room, out of her habit, I'd probably be like, what is wrong? Plus, you know what? The freedom. You guys are so lucky. You guys are so lucky. You and
We don't
her.
have to decide what to wear.
Yes. You don't have to decide what to wear. If you're going to a wedding, it's the same thing as if you're going to a picnic, and it's just great. You don't have to worry about your hair. I'm like, oh man, I wish I could just do that.
Cute little Matthew story, just because you mentioned Matthew. He just turned 4 2 days ago as we're recording this. And so Mother Petra and Mother Gabrielle and I had gone to an ordination in Wisconsin. And so we're at the airport and we're FaceTiming or Skyping him for his birthday. We sing to him in the airport, which he just is totally delighted in. He's excited to see the planes, etc. But when I say, how old are you, Matthew? And he said, I'm 4. And I said, how do you know that you're 4? And he said, because my legs are longer. And I was like, oh. And Mother Gabriella says, did your legs grow last night, Matthew? And he said, yep, I'm 4 now. My legs are longer.
Hit the bottom button.
It's so funny that kids, because that's actually happened quite a bit when I've traveled, especially like when I traveled to Ukraine. I tell the story about this little girl who I filmed her singing. She was probably 2. I filmed her singing, and she was from an orphanage in Ukraine. This is back in 2000. And then I turned the video camera around and I played it for her. I played her own, and she looked very confused. And then she said, why is that girl wearing my shirt? and so this girl, like, she saw her shirt every day, but she didn't see her face because she had never seen a mirror or anything like that. So she didn't even recognize her own face, but she recognized her shirt. Like, I can imagine with Matthew, like, he sees his legs every day. Like, that's what you look at because you can't see your own face. So, like, what's changing? Well, my legs, because I can see my legs. Mm-hmm. Follow-up question to that. Dave, how proud are you that Mother Natalia now has to wear Raiders colors every day?
I mean that's the best part about her vocation. Right? So, yeah, but
all the other goods of being a nun.
Yeah,
she has to
I like
wear
it.
Black and gray.
Even like she's got like the home and away thing going on. She has like the gray habit as well.
Her home habit, her away habit. Nice. All right. Well, before we finish, I do want to get into 2 questions that Mother Natalia asked my parents, and I thought was really good, and so I'll ask you guys as well. But
we can also, I don't know how you are on time, but we're fine on time if we need to go longer.
Okay, we probably will, and that's no worries at all. What, especially if parents are listening to this, or if young people are watching this and they want to have something to share with their parents, but the worries, especially since both of us are living lives of celibacy, I would love for you to reflect upon. This is going to be a 2-part question for both of you, but did you have any, and if so, what were your worries for her happiness and also for your own? And I think those are 2 different things. For her happiness in pursuing this vocation, and then for your own happiness as related to what you thought she was going to be doing with her life.
Okay. It's okay if I go first? Mm-hmm. Her happiness was children. I love children. I love being a mom. If I could have had more children, I would have. I mean, I just absolutely love it. Any child I can get a hold of, I just take full advantage of. And she was the same way. She loved to babysit. She had such a great rapport with kids. She can just, even today, she can go up to a kid on the street and they just know. They're not afraid of her. They'll embrace her. So I think my worry was, is she going to miss, she's going to miss out on that motherhood. The yearning and the desire to have children. And I love my husband, but not even necessarily the husband, but children,
mm-hmm.
And that's what we're called. That's what mothers are built for. And I think I finally came to realize when she took her life professions, she's got that motherhood. She has got so many, she has before she did her life profession, but because of that, she's everybody's mother. And I was like, this is the first year I said, oh my gosh, happy Mother's Day. You're a mother this year. And this is the first time I could ever say it. And she's got the fun part. She can play with them and then be like, I've had enough, go home. No, but that was my worry. That was really my worry. And for me, I grew up knowing the nuns of the past. They slap you with a ruler. They kind of were
Not all nuns of the past are like that.
But Mother Teresa was never. Saint Mother Teresa, Mother Teresa. But also, they were on a pedestal for me as a cradle Catholic of way past, like priest. Like the way she talked to priests, I was like shocked at first because I was like, they're up there, we're down here. You can't talk to a priest that way. And nuns were the same way.
She doesn't mean being rude. She means like how the young people called Archbishop Chaput ABC.
I mean being rude.
Like I
know. For me, that was like, so I would, my happiness was, oh boy, I'm not going to enjoy these nuns. The monastery is going to be like a place I don't want to go. I'm never going to see my daughter, and she's not going to be able to do the things she wants with us. And none of that's true. None of it. I mean, my gosh, this lady jumps off cliffs, in a habit. I mean, her swimming habit, but she plays soccer with kids. She'll play basketball. She will ski,
I'll shovel mulch out of your
shovel
truck.
mulch out of a truck.
That's what we did today.
So I was like, I have actually gained such happiness because she has such joy. Every time I see her, no matter pictures of her on FaceTime at the monastery, she just has this wonderful glow about her. And it passes on to us. So I have just gained so much happiness and love that I couldn't see it any other way. How about you?
Amen.
All right. That's a tough one to follow. I mean, for the same reasons, I was a little concerned about I know how much she just has always loved children. So that was a little bit in the back of my head, but as I kind of watched her go through the process and just me when I remember when I first met you, Father Michael, and then I could tell, I knew that you had such a love for her and like a fatherly affection for her, and you were guiding her through the process. So I completely trusted that you were guiding her to do the right thing. So that made it a lot easier for me, being like a father and a protector of her. I knew that you would do the same thing, and you would do what was right for her. So I really trusted in the process, and I did, I gathered some, being a former military man, I gathered some intel on the monastery, and
he watched all of the live from Mumford Road episodes.
I love that. Mother Gabriella and Mother Cecilia, and then and I just remember when she, Mother Gabriella reminded me so much of her. These two are just going to hit it off. Let's do it. So I kind of knew right when she went for that visit, even though she didn't know it yet. I was like, she's going to enter sometime. She's going to.
Father Michael also knew. My dad's knew.
So I was really comfortable with it, and like I tell her, I'm probably going to need some extra prayers someday. I need somebody that's going to pray for me because I probably have a long purgatory ahead. So.
This morning he says, as we're getting ready to pray Matins, we're starting Matins late, which is actually my fault because I wanted more coffee before Matins, but we're starting Matins late. And he's like, how there's this, you're playing darts and there's this target and the bullseye, that's monasticism, but we're all called to shoot for that bullseye. And he was like, and then how usually that target's on a wall and then there's holes all over the wall from where the darts miss? We're the holes on the wall at this house.
Exactly.
Yes, I have to say one quick thing. Yes, Father Michael, we love you so much for what you've done for our daughter, how you've taken her on this path and led her the right direction and the right way, including all avenues of her life, even in past boyfriends. You have just been wonderful. And she would not be where she is today without you and your love and grace.
It's true.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Your daughter has been so incredibly eloquent about that. I've been very blessed to have someone that communicates her love for me so incredibly well. And I take that's become quite the foundation in my life. when you're a celibate priest, you're, especially in the Byzantine West of the United States, you get moved great distances, and you really have to have a foundation of people in your life that you know, that you love, and that you know love you. And Mother has been a constant, through that whole time, and I am so confident in her love for me, and I know that she's confident also in my love for her, that I think that's been just an amazing thing. So she obviously gets her eloquence in that from you too. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate that immensely, and thank you for sharing that. Any way that you think, and you kind of explained this as well, but any way you were afraid for your own happiness with her, regarding having a son-in-law or, grandchildren, or just, coming and visiting her and whenever you want, and having her come visit you whenever you want. Was there any hesitation there that you maybe share that with other people that are worried about that thing?
Yeah, I think for me, there was a little bit of that because we have always been so close. And that was difficult for me, because like even when she went to college, and like I took her on a college trip and everything, and we went to Notre Dame, and we went across the country and all these places, and she ended up at Colorado School of Mines, like right up the road from us. She had trouble putting her internet in, and I went up there to help her with that.
I think I also just wanted to see my dad.
She was
like,
sick.
can you come set my internet up? Like, I'm in an engineering school, but I'm like, can you come set my internet up?
Yeah, she's sick, and like she's close enough. We bring her chicken soup and stuff like that. So she's always been very close, and there was a little bit a part of that it was difficult that we weren't going to be close, but it's like she was alluding to, the depth of our relationship has just really grown too. So not only are we close, but there's just a depth there that it just that wasn't before. And it's brought so many new graces into our life, and in the monastery, and being part of the family of the nuns there, and it's just every time we go there, it's like when you're going home. Like you see the people, and that they love you, and it's just beautiful and wonderful, and it's so special that I just can't even describe it. It's just so special to know that you're loved so much. And Mother Theodora, when she gives you a blessing and a hug, it just melts your heart. She's so wonderful.
I can describe it. I always cry when we leave because I don't want to leave.
Exactly.
It was really, I think I talked about this on one of the other podcasts that we recorded from my Wyoming Catholic trip, because my parents and Maddie were there at those recordings, but my dad was able to get off work, and then they spent all of Holy Week, and we're at the monastery for Pascha, for Holy Week and Pascha. And it was just like really cool to, one of the things I said to my mom in a letter that I wrote to her was, I've talked on the podcast, and I've talked with her about how, like, I didn't have the catechesis growing up in the sense of like the actual formal teachings of the church, but she very much lived out the praxis, right? Like she lived out and my dad lived out the very practical, like they raised me in a very moral and ethical way, and like doing the works and the charity and all of that. And there's been this blessing of being at the monastery. I've been able to offer the reverse of that, like to say, now as mother, I have the opportunity to give you that more formal catechesis, and to offer you the liturgy that I didn't necessarily learn about, and the teachings that I didn't necessarily learn about, and things like that. And so to have them there for Holy Week was really special, like for them to experience, because even if you go to all the Holy Week services at a parish, like you're not getting the fullness of what's offered at a monastery, right? Like we do all the services, and for them to be able to experience, to be able to experience that. And it's like they raised me in such a way that I was then able to enter into this, and then to like invite them into that monasticism. And so, that's been
so we got to experience for the first time ever what the truly, truly Holy Week is.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful, because I've had multiple people, and I just met actually an Orthodox catechumen last night at my ramen place. She worked there. She had a big Orthodox cross around her neck, our cross, and anyway, we had a great conversation, and she's only starting the catechumenate like this week. But it was she's entered into the catechumenate, and she said, this was my first great and holy week, she said, and it was amazing. And for so many people, it's a lot, but for many people it's such an introduction into the heart of our faith, and how we live that faith together, and how we worship God, and how we receive from him the grace of his passion, death, and resurrection. So amen. I'm glad you guys got to experience that too. Finally, Mother, do you have any questions that you have for your parents about anything that we didn't cover, anything on your mind?
I wanted to ask about wearing the habit at home, Holy Week. I don't think so. You might have already touched on this, so if you want to just say you think you've already answered it, that's fine. But if this spurs any new ideas. One of the questions I asked Father Michael's parents was, what was the most unexpected joy of me being a nun? Like, what was the thing that's been really good or really beautiful for you that you were just like totally surprised by? I think Dad maybe covered that in talking about relationships. Like, he wasn't expecting that. You might have covered that.
I think that the joy and happiness that she has. Yeah, I really do. I think when she said she was entering the monastery, and I'm like, ooh, living with just women. First of all, we know what women are like.
That's what I thought.
So like I said, it's just no matter what, just the joy on her, it's, I mean, just the beautiful, loving joy. And I think one of the other things that actually surprised me, and I didn't touch on, I know I said about leaving your dad, was about leaving you, Father Michael. Leaving you in her home parish, because your church, the Holy Mother of Holy Protection, is what actually brought her into her faith, truly. And the Eastern Rite is what started teaching her the true foundation of our faith. And I think that surprised me, is her being able to step away from that and to she's still in it, but to move to Ohio and, join the monastery. And because when she was in Colorado, every other word out of her mouth, Father Michael, Father Michael, Father Michael, in a good way. So I was like, wow, are you going to be able to be so far from him? And now you guys are even further apart. But I think that really surprised me.
It was actually, it was really hard. When I don't remember I don't think I talked about this before, but when I entered the monastery, Father Michael drove me to the airport, and he walked me into the airport, and he gave me a letter, which is one of like 3 letters.
I was going to say, was it the only one?
And, no, he's been working. This next one's going to be amazing, though. He's been working on this one for my life profession for 8 months now. And it's like, man, it's going to be outstanding. So he gives me this letter, and I make the mistake of I get to my gate, and I have so much extra time that I decide to go get a drink, and I'm sitting at one of the airport bars, and one of the options on the menu is a flight of Colorado whiskey, and I'm just like, this is my last, I'm leaving Colorado, because I'm very emotional, not just about leaving Father Michael, but leaving Colorado.
Yes.
I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I love Colorado, and it was so hard for me to leave. And so I'm like, I'm going to have my Colorado whiskey, and I'm going to have Breckenridge and Stranahan's and all of these things. And so I get this flight of Colorado whiskey, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to read that letter from Father Michael. So I'm drinking my flight of whiskey and reading this letter and sobbing at the airport, at the bar. And some guy next to me has the gumption to hit on me. And he asks where I'm going. And I say, I'm going to enter a monastery. And he gives me his card and says, well, if it doesn't work out. Anyways, so, and then I cried on the whole flight to the monastery, because I'm like, I'm just leaving everything. But yeah.
But you gain so much more.
So much more, yeah.
I think that's one thing that's very important for parents who have these legitimate worries that both Mother and I talked about, to I really wish we could, of all the good of a time machine, but like to go forward and just see how happy their child would be when all is said and done, when the decisions are made. But I really like how you, especially Dave, talked about how once you met the people that were going to continue to be involved in her life in the various ways, and how you trusted them and saw their joy, and were in a sense, I mean, that's the whole point of the more Western American tradition of a father handing off his daughter at marriage, right? There's I'm doing this intentionally, I'm handing her off intentionally to someone who I trust and who I can continue what I've been doing, and when you're doing that to Christ, primarily, of course, the church, a specific monastery, the specific women at that monastery. My mom, when I was being ordained elector, just sat and raged on my bishop for about 20 minutes with him sitting in our backyard because she didn't trust the church that she was handing me off to. And it was mostly just like, why do Roman Catholic priests get their college paid for, and my son's going to go into seminary with $40,000 in student loans? And then pay more for seminary, really? Anyway, God bless her for doing that. It actually worked incredibly well. He found those funds out of sheer fear of my mother. I'm sure other reasons too, but anyway, thank you. I think that's very telling and beautiful, and you were very eloquent about everything. I commend you for that.
So I guess my only other question is just like, if you guys do you have anything else, any other stories that you already had in mind that you wanted to share tonight that didn't come up in the questions or anything in that?
No.
Okay.
Is that like...
No, we're good.
God's like, thank God we're good. You guys both did great. You did wonderful.
Yes, you did. I appreciate it. So we're going to finish up with some prayer intentions. So if you guys want to think of some prayer intentions, I'm going to do the spiel of how people can find us, etc. But if you want to think of some prayer intentions, and I'll kick off with that, and then we'll say goodbye. So if you are listening, if you want to support us in any way, you can recommend and review us on the various apps. We have a website, whatgodisnot.com. We have a nonprofit that we started that supports evangelization and the care of the poor and the church in general and other ministries that are doing similar things to us. It's called Fotina. So fotina.org is where you can find that. We also have a Patreon where you can support us financially. All that money does go to Fotina, to our nonprofit. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. I'm on Twitter at Padre Michael O. We have a Goodreads page where you can see what we're reading, and you can share what you're reading, and you can discuss all of that with our media team. We are on YouTube, audio only. Some would say thank God for that.
Thank God for that. Thank God.
We have faces for radio. I'm just kidding. I do. Mother got hit on sitting at a bar at the Denver airport. She obviously is not hard to look at. What else? I think is that everything? Like and subscribe and all those other things. Maddie, can you share what the joke is?
No, we can't.
No,
we can't. We will after we stop recording that.
Okay, I get it.
Sorry, I know listeners hate when we do that. I should have said that.
Edit it.
Okay.
I'm not going to edit it.
Well, just so that Mother remembers, because we forgot last time, we're going to do prayer intentions and then goodbyes and then a blessing.
Yes.
In that order. All right. So my prayer intention... I want to pray for
everyone who needs prayed for has already been prayed for.
Yeah, right. They're all. It's exhausted. We're all done. We're all done. I want to pray for those discerning vocations who do not have the support of their parents, and also for parents that do everything right and their children still leave the faith. I think those are tragedies, and those are evils that will always be confusing and not understood. And yet there are so many in this world that fall into those categories. The inexplicableness of evil, and also the overwhelming goodness and generosity of God. And those two things, when they collide, in our humanity and in our human nature, and especially in our family life. Of course, the devil hates the family. And so when those things collide in family life, we are so confused. We are so in awe. We are so, tempted towards despair. So the prayers of the rest of the community, and this is what the church should be. Dave said about the beauty of the monastery, but the whole church should be a place where joy is lived out, and where parents can trust the church itself as the body of Christ to mold their children, guide their children, give their children joy, all those things. And just so pray for all the times the devil is won, and that we may recover well, we may rise after our passion and death in those ways when the devil seems to have won in this season of Pascha. So just pray for all those who, especially within the family, find it hard to see what God is doing in their own family or in the family of others.
I'd like to ask for prayers for our friends. They're friends of both my parents and myself. Juan and Katrina. We're having a going away cookout for them here tomorrow. And so they go to my parents' parish, but they've become my friends as well. And they're moving to Oregon. Is that right? Yeah, they're moving to Oregon.
First, I think, so.
Connecticut, and then Oregon, another military family. Yeah. And so prayers for them in their transition. And they have just beautiful, beautiful children. And they're a very inspiring family. So
I'd like to pray for the parents of those who are discerning that they're not sure or they are supporting them. Just know that once you give them, you trust God and Jesus and the monastery, and you put them in their hands, they will be okay. You will receive so much more graces, and you get extra little prayers for heaven to help your family along the way. And don't be afraid to ask about it and to be there. But pray for them that they help them make the right choice and to follow what God gives them.
Amen.
Daddy?
Yeah, I was going to say the same, too, but as far as praying for those discerning, I just pray that they would just both the parents and the young women that might be discerning. And men that might be discerning monastic life or the priesthood or religious life, that they trust in the process and trust in God, and it works out beautifully, and just to put their trust in God.
Maddie Hebert.
When I get back from this home visit, I'm going to be counseling, so I want to pray for the clients that I'll be seeing.
Namely, Mother Natalia.
I'm just kidding. Namely, not you.
Amen. All right. Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you for loving our podcast, and thank you for all your prayers as well.
Yeah, thank you, listeners. And thank you, Mom and Dad. This was amazing. It was I knew it was going to be good, but it was even better than I expected. So thank you. And thank you, Father Michael. Love you all.
Thank you for having us.
Mom and Dad, Father Michael. Love you guys.
May the Lord bless you and keep you, cause his face to shine upon you, have mercy on you. May our Lord send you forth, especially in this season of the resurrection, to preach and to teach his word by your actions and by your words. May he allow you to be witnesses to the joy of our faith and the joy of our church. May our Lord give you every good thing to build up his kingdom, to be happy and joyful, but also convicted and able to carry your crosses with eloquence, with guidance, and with his true strength. May you truly find strength in weakness, as Paul preaches. May our Lord bless you in all that you do, and may he lead you, give you everything you need to do to receive from him the salvation of your soul. May the Lord bless you in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen.